Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Wooster City Council this Monday, February 4th, 2019. It's after 7:30 p.m. We're starting a little late. Mr. Sharon gave us a very interesting overview of the last year of the Wooster Community Hospital and did some forecasting for this year, 2019. I've got to tell people that for a community this size, we have a Class A hospital. I know some people complain about it, but we don't know how lucky we are. And I think that applies to many aspects of the city of Worcester. We really don't know how lucky we are because we have it pretty good here. Okay, the other item is in 2 weeks will be President's Day, so I assume we are meeting on the 19th and not the 18th, so it'll be Tuesday, February 19th. On that date at 6:30, the mayor will be delivering the State of the City address, and I invite you to attend. And Chief, I did get your note, and right after the Pledge of Allegiance at that meeting, which will be the 19th, we'll do your presentation of the Officer of the Year. I think that takes care of my immediate housekeeping. So at this time, would you please call the roll, Ms. DePaula?
Mr. Ansel.
Here.
Mr. Bostancic.
Here.
Mr. Cavan.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here.
Mr. Sanders.
Here.
Mr. Silvestri.
Here.
Ms. Warden.
Here.
Everyone's here despite flu and cold season and post Super Bowl letdown for those who were rooting against the Patriots. So anyways, this time I would ask you to stand and join the members of City Council in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I see one Boy Scout out there. Usually this means that you're working on some sort of citizenship patch or what have you. Well, I appreciate you coming, and hopefully you'll learn something, one of which is never be a politician, probably. No, welcome, and if you have any questions, let us know, all right? What troop are you with?
65.
65, okay. Good enough. Welcome. The agenda will remain as presented. Turning to item 2, approval of the minutes, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the January 22nd meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ansel, second by Ms. Warden. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The minutes of January 22nd are approved. Mr. Mayor, welcome, and pleasure to see you tonight, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, President Bytendijk and council members. Thank you for attending the hospital piece of our meeting tonight, where you learned about where we've been this past year and where we're hoping to go here in 2019. I think all are pretty pleased with the leadership that we have at the hospital at this point, and Bill Sharon and his team. They've done a great job for our community. Passed out one thing that really is probably the big thing for us tonight, and that's called the 2019 Polycom ratings. If you look at it, it's split into 2 parts, a metropolitan piece, which is really the major cities, and a micropolitan piece. Micropolitan is any area of the country that has between 10,000 and 50,000 residents involved in it, and so they're sort of a micro to the metropolitans. And that's the category that we fit into here in Worcester and in Wayne County. It's called the Wooster Micropolitan, and if you look at the front in the very bottom right-hand corner, you see Wooster, Ohio in the picture there. So our little community here is being broadcast throughout the country as being one of the top micropolitans in the nation. There are 551 micropolitans in the United States. We have reached the ranking of number 5 of being the 5th highest micropolitan out there. These have been going on for about 20 years, but I have the last 5 years. In 2015, we were 110 in the ranking. In 16, we were 84. In 17, we were 34. In 18, we were number 5. And now in 19, we're at number 5 again. So that's a pretty strong statement. They have, as far as a ranking group, they have a way to do their ranking, and I'll send that email out to all of you so that you can understand the metrics behind it. But it's a 20-year look back is what they base things on, and so it's not just a snapshot in time, it's more a real study of how is a community functioning, and it's truly a very high ranking and rating for us. So we're thrilled to have received that, and we'll be sending more information out to you. I know the newspapers already had an article about it, and our thanks to them on recognizing the strength of this rating program that Polycom does. The other thing is the polar plunge that we all went through and now has passed for the moment. I just wanted to say thanks to our city crews. They worked very long and hard throughout that to try to keep the roads open and people moving and under some very difficult situations, and I think they did a super job for us. So those are the two things I really wanted to share with you tonight. If you think about it, we're in the top 1% of all micropolitans in the United States of America. So that's pretty rarefied air there, and so we should all be thrilled for the placing that we were given. So that's all. Thank you.
That's wonderful news. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No one's signed the sign-up sheet, so we'll move right on to committee reports, which I don't think we have, and we don't have any public hearings. So we'll turn our attention to the one item under unfinished business. It's slated for the second reading, ordinance number 2019-01. I understand Mr. Sanders is going to keep it on second reading, and that we will get to him in a moment. If you would, Mr. Paulo, please read the title.
Ordinance number 2019-01, an ordinance amending Part 11 zoning of the codified ordinances of the City of Wooster, Ohio, to rezone land to R4 multifamily residential for a property located on the West Milltown Road.
Mr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we discussed two weeks ago, and also at our public hearing previous to that, this is 32.4 acres on Milltown Road that they are looking to rezone. And with that, unless there's any specific questions from council members, we'll say that this has had its second reading and move on.
Seeing none, we'll consider that ordinance number 2019-01 has had its second reading. Moving right on to new business is ordinance number 2019-04. Will be presented by Mr. Bostancic. If you would, Mr. Paulo, please read the title.
Ordinance number 2019-04, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to allow for an encroachment upon the public standard highway easement as part of the Wooster Loop Phase 2 project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Bostancic, floor is yours. Is slated for 3 readings.
Okay, thank you. This request is simply to allow an encroachment upon the public standard highway easement being obtained for the Wooster Loop Phase 2 project, which is also known as the bike path. This encroachment will allow trees and other existing features such as commercial signs marked as do not disturb or save on the construction plans to remain within the standard highway easement. This piece of legislation is an ODOT requirement due to federal state funds being used on the project. The main benefit also is that this will allow us to save as many trees as well as limiting expenses for compensation if such trees need to be removed. Any questions?
Pretty straightforward. And saving the trees is always a good thing,
Yes, it is.
especially in a Tree City community. Do you like,
I'd like to make a motion to put this on third and final.
all right, motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Bostancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. Would you please call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules?
Cavan,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Bastancik,
Yes.
Hansel.
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended. I turn to you again, Mr.
I
Bostancic.
move to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Bostancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Cavan. Any further comment, questions? Seeing none, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Cavan,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Bastancik,
Yes.
Hansel.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2019-04 passes. Resolution number 2019-10. This will be presented by Mr. Ansel. It is slated for 3 readings. So I get to you, Mr. Ansel. I'll once again turn to Mr. Paulo and ask her to read the title.
Resolution number 2019-10, a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept funds from the AEP Commercial Electric Charging Station Incentive Program and to execute any necessary documents.
Mr. Ansel, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we all know, green is very good, and this initiative really reinforces the future for this type of exponential infrastructure growth for electrical chargers within our city, not only within our city, but throughout the state of Ohio. To embrace this initiative, AEP is coming in with some significant incentives, and Roger and his team put a request through for a subsidized charging station investment, one at the Merchant Block parking lot where we have one that was put in through the renovation process and donated by McClintock Electric, and then 2 additional charging stations on the Buckeye North parking lot. So we'll have really 2 with dual chargers and 2 with single chargers in place. The cost of this investment upgrade is $200,000, of which the state of Ohio, or AEP, through the Commercial Electrical Vehicle Charging Station Incentive Program, will subsidize $170,000. So that will leave approximately $26,000 for the electrical connection and hookup, which will be supported through McClintock Electric, and then $4,000 for the construction after AEP's reimbursement. So it's a sign of the future. Joel was going to provide some interesting stats, but the savings generated by these 4 charging stations, and I think you saw some of the supplemental statistics showing the positives of this, and these charging stations are pretty cool because they track all utilization of the charger from the day it's installed. So they can see if it's a Tesla or a hybrid Toyota. They know who the driver is of that vehicle based on the VIN number. But the charging station is a pretty revolutionary concept. It's much like our phones, that they track everywhere you go. But these 4 chargers is like having planted 5 trees and letting them grow 10 years. That's the economic or the environmental impact associated with these 4 chargers. So that's an interesting stat. It's a wonderful program. Unfortunately, it wasn't budgeted because we didn't think the application process would go so quickly through the state and through AEP. So they fast-tracked it. We're probably one of the first to really even pursue the funding, so we're out of the blocks quick, and we would like to get this approved. So I am going to propose that we suspend the rules and move this resolution to third and final reading this evening. Motion.
Motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Ansel. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Myers. Would you please call the roll on the suspension of the rules?
Bastancik,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel,
Yes.
Cavan.
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended.
Are there any comments before I, yes, Mr. Cavan?
Usually we'll have motion to adopt and then have the,
Okay, motion to adopt.
is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. Now, comments,
Mr. Cavan?
questions?
Okay. I was curious, I was looking through here, maybe I missed it. Is there an end cost for the user?
Yes, they pay a charge for the electric. It's calculated on either a credit card swipe, or they can set up an account to pay incremental cost of the electric usage. So
And it's less than gasoline, I assume?
it is a cheaper form of fuel at this point, yes.
So that they would be paying AEP?
It's not AEP, it's a third-party vendor that we're using on the thing. Do you know the name of that?
They charge, Bob, it's Charge Point.
Thank you.
Charge Point.
Yeah.
Charge Point? Are they an Ohio company?
Well, I think they're national. What they do is you have the charging stations, and it goes onto their website, so that if you have an electric car, it comes up to where all the Charge Point stations are.
Okay.
So, you know, they say they live in Canton and they're going to Columbus. Well, they know they can stop here, get a charge, have lunch, then go to Columbus, so,
Cool.
yeah.
I did see where I thought that GM in years to come is gonna phase out combustion engines and go totally electric.
I know Luke is really looking to the future, doing the whole electric chassis, so, yeah, it's a thing of the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers?
I saw in the graph that was presented here, how many unique drivers did we have altogether? It looks like maybe around 25 total.
Yeah, I didn't look at the, yeah, it looks like, well, month of October, there were 8 different,
8,
and then, you know, 7,
Seven.
6.
but
So,
the
yeah.
ones in November could be the same ones as October. Those are per month unique, so the 8 is the most, so.
But that's only.
I think we
gonna-
need 4 more stations. though,
Yeah,
for
it's
all
only
these
gonna
people.
grow.
Yeah.
It is something that makes us unique, because people have to go from one city to another, have to sort of chart their course to where they can refuel their vehicle with electricity. So by having electric charging stations available, it sort of puts us on the map, so that if someone's traveling from Cleveland to Columbus, they may come down through Wooster just because we have charging stations. And this will actually give us 6 individual charging spots, because there are double at the quad. There are two spots there. There'll be 2 over in the Merchants Block parking lot, and then there'll be, I think, 4 up, 2 more up on the North Buckeye Street, so 6 total.
Jen?
I wonder if someone could tell me why there are no charging stations that are planned for the north end or even the center of town. Seems, especially looking at the number of unique drivers that we've seen utilize these charging stations, 6 is quite a lot, in you know, a 1 or 2 block radius of our downtown, especially with, you know, Route 83 being, you know, such a highly traveled thoroughfare. I was wondering if someone can tell me that.
Sure. Downtown is community land. It's our city-owned property, so we are putting these charging stations on city property. The north end of town is mainly commercial property, either owned by the developers or the individual stores themselves. You really won't find communities expending community dollars to put charge points on individually owned property. And that's probably the biggest driver, is that there really is no community-owned land up in, say, the Walmart area or the Lowe's area or any of those major developments.
I mean, just perhaps to consider for the future, I mean, there's Friedlander Park, that's a pretty centrally located, and maybe even the high school. Those just, it seems to me like that would make a better use of those resources. I'm also wondering, and maybe this is because of our lack of a parking official right now, but it says the average session length is 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I think that's in a 1 hour parking lot, so I'm just,
Actually, they're all
Is it
an
not
hour and a
anymore?
half down on the quads right now.
Oh,
We
okay.
switched that because of the community input that said that they really wanted longer times in the
to charge
quads.
their car.
Well, to park for restaurants and those
Right.
kind of things. The other comment back to the Freelander Park area, yes, I'm sure if this does start to really notate a trend, we will consider other spots, but they are pretty expensive. You
Yeah, it
figure that
sounds
we're
like it.
putting 2 charging stations in for approximately $200,000. We would not have been doing this without the AEP grant, because that's funding 85% of the cost. So that's the reason why we haven't gone that direction.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Cavan?
Is that the full amount of the grant then? Are we taking full advantage of that?
Yes, yes. Our buy-in's about $30,000 to their $170,000 for these charging stations.
Is that a one-time proposition, or is that a yearly, annual?
No, that's pretty much a one-time. Get the wiring and the electricity substructure in place, and then the actual charging pod itself, like you see down on the northeast quad. So,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Weidenbach?
Who's responsible for servicing these after they get installed?
you know, that's a good question, Mr. Breitenbeck. I don't have that answer for you. We'll try to glean that. Joel's been really running with this piece, and he's out sick this evening, so
Right.
I
Well,
know
I'm
he
glad-
planned to be here. But,
Yeah.
So.
And I understand, and then I assume that the justification for spending taxpayers' money, this is kind of another piece of economic development downtown in terms of hope to attract those that have electric vehicles to come visit our community, or if they're passing by, stop and frequent one of the businesses.
That's correct, and thank you for notating that, because that's exactly part of the reasoning that we looked into this. Figure if it takes an hour and a half to charge a vehicle, that gives them plenty of time to go down and use a restaurant in our downtown or wander around the stores in the downtown section, so yes.
Plus, we're doing our part for hopefully a greener USA,
There you
or at
go.
least Ohio.
There you go.
It's certainly a very interesting experiment. It's a new frontier. We have many unanswered questions because this is uncharted territory that we're going into, but it is a premier addition to kind of showcase the downtown. Can we take a question from the audience? Please, yes. Say your name and your address.
Frank Michelle, 1031 Douglas Drive. The question is, will these spots be exclusively for cars charging? Or what do you do in a situation when someone with a pickup truck parks there instead and someone wants to charge? Have you considered that?
Wait for the truck to leave, I would assume.
Well, I would assume that we're gonna put up signs, electric vehicles.
Yes,
only, and
there is now.
They must charge. My guess is we'll have additional piece of legislation for those violating our charging stations, parking spaces.
Right, we will
It's a
have
good
no-
That's a good question, yeah.
Like a handicap parking place. You violate, you get a ticket.
This
Mr.
is a
Cavan?
reason for you to get your Tesla now.
Yes,
And then you
absolutely.
can cruise up and down the boulevard on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Mr. Cavan?
Would this require us to have liability insurance on those since they are on public property and it is electrical? Is that any concern?
We'd have to get it covered under our insurance policy if necessary.
Our umbrella. No different than a switchgear, a traffic light, you know, control, a fire hydrant, yeah, it would be city property at that point.
Right.
And they are very prone to damage, you can see, they're perpendicular poles sitting up in the asphalt or the brick driveway. Yeah, you can imagine that those things will get knocked about from time to time, especially in the winter months potentially. It's the future. Mr. Silvestri?
I think it gives drivers of unique state-of-the-art vehicles an excuse to stop in our unique state-of-the-art city, especially given what the mayor said about being the micropolitan that we are in the top 1%. I just wanted to mention, to go off of Ms. Gordon's comments as well, I would just like to mention the idea in the future, given the fact that our city vehicles may start to go this way, I think that our new Safety Service Center might be a prime site for one of these stations in the future.
By the way, just as a point of public interest, there are a little over 13,000 electrical / hybrid compatible vehicles in the state of Ohio. So it is growing. In 2013, there was less than 2,000. So it is gaining momentum out there. So thank you for that endorsement. Having all the questions and discussions taken place, should we call for a vote?
Well, I think we're
Okay,
having
done.
discussion, so we're done with discussion. Anyone else? Seeing none, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Costancic?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cavan?
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Either you were losing my voice or I was losing my hearing completely.
Maybe a little both.
Okay, resolution number 2019-10 passes. Resolution number 2019-11, this will be, oops, I'm behind. 2019-11 passes, and that,
No. 10.
First time.
We're at 10.
okay, I have mine misnumbered, so sorry about that. 2019-10 passes, right?
Right.
Right.
All right. Well, I saw electric charging, I guess that's what confused me.
It's kind of like a twofer.
Yeah, it is. So we are on resolution 2019-11 presented by Mr. Bostancic, slated for 3 readings. But I will ask you to read the title, please.
Resolution number 2019-11, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to enter into a contract with McClintock Electric, Inc. for the construction of electric charging stations, authorizing the necessary funds, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Bostancic, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you. As the previous piece of legislation was to accept the funds from AEP, this piece of legislation will allow the city to enter into a contract for the construction and appropriation of funds for these electric charging stations. As this is the administration would like to give the contract to McClintock Electric, as they've done previous work on installing electric charging stations. And for such reasons, and the city feels that they are the best qualified in this area to do so. And as such, they were going to do this as a sole source contract. So it's pretty simple and straightforward, just kind of addendum to the previous piece of legislation. Any questions?
It's a nice way to thank McClintock Electric for donating the one on the square.
Yes.
Give them a check for $200,000.
Actually, 30,000 is
more what he'll be
Yeah,
funding.
And this is a professional service contract,
Correct.
so it doesn't require a bid, and my guess is it's a specialized installation and not, you know, Joe, the electrician, is capable of doing this.
No, they're very good.
Mr. President, it's my understanding, and I don't know, that there is that there are only a certain amount of electricians in the state who can actually do this. And most likely they're the one that's closest to us.
Right, that's why I was
Oh,
pointing
and
out.
they do a lot of work with AEP on these kinds of projects. They're very, I think they do excellent work.
I was just pointing out, professional service contracts don't need to be bid out.
Yeah.
And it's a specialized. Yeah, are you doing anything, Mr. Bastancic?
Yes, as we want to keep on AEP's schedule for these installations, I recommend we go to third and final on this.
All right, motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Bastancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ward. Would you please call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules?
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel.
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Costanza.
Yes.
The rules are suspended. I turn to you again, Mr.
Move to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Bastancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Myers. Would you, any further discussion, questions, comments? Last chance to grill probably Mr. Kobelarsek on his knowledge of electrical charging stations tonight. Seeing none, you're off the hook on this topic. Please call the roll on the motion to adopt.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel.
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Costanza.
Yes.
Resolution number 2019-11 passes, so Worcester is going green in the electrical car business here. Resolution number 2019-12, this will be presented by Mr. Bastancic. I do note it's budgeted and hence would not require suspension of the rules. But before we get back to you, Mr. Bastancic, once again, Mr. Paula, would you read the title?
Resolution number 2019-12, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a final resolution with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the resurfacing of State Route 585, Akron Road, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Bastancic, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. We saw the first part of this back in June when the council passed the cooperative agreement with ODOT. This resolution is a request to authorize the mayor to enter a final resolution with ODOT to pave a small portion of State Route 585, and this is just going from the northeast of Shuffler Way to the southwest of Geysers Chapel Road. ODOT will be in the vicinity paving anyway on 585, and they had come to us last year, I believe, and asked us if we want a small pavement, a small part of 585 that's still in the city limits paved, why they are there. ODOT's going to pay 100% of the construction and engineering costs, and our budget, our part for just the paving only will be a little over $20,042. And the point of this is this will actually save us money since ODOT will already be in the vicinity with their equipment, and it'd be more expensive for us to do it at a later time and then have somebody have to bring equipment in and so forth, so on and so forth. So it's a good time to take care of this in this manner, I think.
It's a good deal, right, Mr. Kobelarsek? He said,
Yeah, they called me last year and said, hey, you want us to go down and pave that little section? Yeah, how much? So, yeah. It's a good deal.
all right.
Any other questions?
You want to make a motion?
I would move to adopt,
Motion to adopt?
since this is a budget.
Yeah, is there a second?
Second.
Now, any questions? All right, seeing none, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel.
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Costanza.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 2019-12 passes. That brings us to resolution number 2019-13. It will again be presented by Mr. Bostancic. You're getting the limelight tonight, sir. That one's slated for 3 readings. Before I get back to you, would you please read the title, Mr. Paulo?
Resolution number 2019-13. A resolution's consenting to the use of a city right-of-way for the construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Friendsville Road and Smithville Western and declaring an emergency. PID number 97444, Way County Road 0006-01.21.
All right, Mr. Bostancic, the floor is yours.
Yes, as was just said, Wayne County would like to build a roundabout at the intersection of Friendsville Road and Smithville Western. Part of this will be in the city of Worcester's right-of-way, and all this does is give them permission to enter that right-of-way and do some construction. And all we're doing is just authorizing that, and if we do not do that, it might be very hard, well, to construct that roundabout at a later date, so they really need our permission for it. It's pretty straightforward.
Mr. Bostancic, I know the roundabout in that location has been talked about for many years. With the recent annexation of the land south of that intersection and the planned development, should we not wait for a traffic study to determine if the roundabout is the appropriate thing to put there versus a traffic signal or whatever that traffic study might dictate?
That you'd have to ask Roger, but from my experience at the roundabout at Burbank and up north, it's a fairly large traffic area. It seems to go really smooth up there to be my.
I think that one was working well too. I just didn't know if a
Yeah, I
more
don't-
current study might need to be done based on the new, the annexation.
With the proposed development, you're gonna have more traffic than is currently there. And a
Yes.
roundabout serves more traffic than a traffic signal.
Okay, so we're erring on the side of what the
Correct.
development might include.
Right, and
Yes.
it has the added benefit of it being a much, much safer way to direct traffic around an intersection as well.
And it's not costing us any money. This is paid by,
Right.
100% by the county. And it was in the works long before.
That's what I meant. I just didn't know if anything changed because of the annexation.
And
No,
and
in
the
fact-
county may have done a traffic study too on this property already, just from their own uses, because as Mr. Beitendijk said, it
been
is a
several
county
years.
project.
And I know Mr. Kovalarczyk and Mr. Montgomery made sure, and there may be other parties involved, that before we annex that land, that the county was committed to fulfill what they had originally said they were going to do, which was to construct this roundabout at no cost to the city.
No other questions, I would make a move to adopt.
I think we have to suspend the rules.
Oh, there's no money involved, so I don't know.
I know, but it's still, any resolution or ordinance that isn't budgeted is required to have 3 readings, so that's why there's 3 readings necessary.
All right, well, I'll make a move to go to third and final.
All right, motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Bostancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cavan, I didn't hear you. Mr. Silvestri is quite loud compared to you all the way down there. There you go. Okay. So, seconded by Mr. Cavan. Would you please call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules?
Silvestri,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel,
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Bostancic.
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
The rules are suspended. I turn to you again, Mr. Bostancic.
Move to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Bostancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Warden. Any last questions or comments here? This is always a fun meeting right after that long meeting there at the hospital. So, anyway, seeing none, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Silvestri,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel.
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Costansik.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 2019-13 passes, and it looks like we're going to have our second roundabout on the north end of the Worcester boundaries. That brings us to resolution number 2019-14. This is going to be presented by Mr. Ansel. It is budgeted, so will not require 3 readings. Before I get to you, Mr. Ansel, I will ask Mr. Paulo to read the title of the penultimate piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2019-14, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to enter into an agreement with the Wayne County Commissioners for the prosecution of municipal ordinances by the Wayne County Prosecutor and for payment for such services.
Okay, Mr. Ansel, the floor is yours, sir.
Since 1976, the city of Wooster has contracted through the Wayne County Commissioners, through the office of the Wayne County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, for all prosecution of ordinances or state code violations occurring within the city. So for 43 years, this has been a long-standing contract and agreement, and over the years, we've seen some escalation in costs. This year, they are freezing prior year's costs, which was $79,980. It's also very reassuring to have a new legal counsel on staff to always, do a comparative review and get a read on the cost effectiveness and the value being derived from this subcontracted service. And we all did receive a summary from Attorney Scavelli detailing the cost of salary, wages, benefits, retirement, pension, matrix software, which would be required to have access to provide the service. We cannot displace the third-party relationship of the services being provided by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. So, again, we review this every year. We would need to rule on this evening because we don't have a current contract in place. I know, right. And it is budgeted, so if I'm making a motion to adopt.
Okay, motion to adopt by Mr. Ansel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Myers.
have a
Any
quick question.
further questions?
Yes, Mr. Myers?
When did you receive the summary? I didn't know, not sure if I got that, but I was out all day today. So.
It was emailed via our address on January 31st, but I don't know.
I think I just responded directly to you.
Yes, and I think I forwarded that to the rest of council. Did they receive that? I forwarded Mr. Scavelli's to their city council email address, just as an FYI to prep them. Thank you, Mr. Silvestri. Yeah, Mr. Bostancic?
I'm just curious, about how many prosecutions a year do we do on this?
I don't have that in front of me right now, I can get it
Is
for
it
you.
generally
I don't
you?
think it's changed much from the year before, which, that was actually, I can run upstairs and actually grab it
Oh,
if you like.
I'm just curious.
It's, the real key there is for us to do the same amount of work right now that we would need at the very least another legal secretary. That's the biggest thing that I see. I mean, I've been a prosecutor for 13 and a half, almost 14 years. And what we would really need, even more so than just more attorneys, which, I mean, that's a possibility and that's the more expensive version of this. But at the very least, we would need another secretary. That would cost $40,000 base. That ends up being somewhere around $60,000 once you added benefits. When you add in the matrix system, which we would need in order to stay competitive and also fit in with the county system, that's $8,000 a year on the low end of that. that system. It's probably higher. That's what, I took that estimate from what the city of Talmadge paid to get into that system, and that's when they were buying with a whole group of governments. Most likely, that's gonna be much more expensive for us because we're buying it late and not with a bunch of other government groups, may bring the cost down. So that's just base, us doing it without the county. With the county keeping the price the same this year, I don't really see any reason to make that jump at this point. We may need to revisit that somewhere in the future, but right now, I don't really see any reason for us to make that jump since the price is the same. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
Mr. Bostancic, I don't remember the exact numbers of prosecutions. I do know that when we did the math, we're spending less per prosecution with the county for municipal crimes than we do per cat that the Humane Society takes care of. So we're getting a very good deal from the county.
That's very relevant, Councilman Myers. That's
It's math, I'm
yeah.
good at math.
Interesting analogy.
Seeing no further questions, would you please call the roll?
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel,
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Costancic,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Resolution number 2019-14 passes. And Mr. Silvestri was the last vote, and he will be presenting the last resolution this evening. Before I turn it over to you, Mr. Silvestri, would you once again please read the title, Mr.
Resolution number 2019-15, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to advertise according to law and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for the replacement of the corrugated metal culverts under Palmer Street, south of Wayne Avenue, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Silvestri, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Just under the portion of Palmer Street, south of Wayne Avenue, we have two metal corrugated pipes. One is a 2-foot or 24-inch diameter. The other is a 12-inch diameter. Those are deteriorated, and even though we are looking ahead at redoing Palmer Street in 2024, we need to take care of this immediately. So we're going to be replacing those two with a single concrete 29-inch by 45-inch elliptical pipe. So we're upgrading. We're getting rid of the dual culverts, going to a single, and we're taking care of the problem in a way that it's not going to deteriorate because it's not going to be metal. We're going to be having concrete under there. So it's going to be much more durable, going to last us into the future, and we want to just take care of this problem and then see where we're left when we redo Palmer Street. Pretty simple. Because of the deterioration, this really can't wait, so it is fully budgeted, so we'll look to pass this tonight. I move for adoption.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Silvestri. Is there a
Second.
Second by Mr. Ansel. He beat her with his hand limits. I went on hands this time, not on voice. Any other questions?
I have a question. Roger, can you tell me when the work for this is set to take place, as well as how long it's going to take?
It'll probably be late spring. It should take no more than 60 days.
Okay, and the entire roadway will be closed from
Correct.
both sides, traffic?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Good thing I kept watching.
Any other questions?
No, it's a good thing we did keep Gotchi open then.
Good point. But we digress. Anything else? Would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Ansel,
Yes.
Costancic,
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Warden.
Yes.
And this concludes the new business portion as resolution number 2019-15 passes. That brings us to the miscellaneous, and we'll start out with the man who had most of the mic time, Mr. Bostancic.
Yeah.
Nothing more at this time.
Okay, Mr. Cavan.
Yes, I would like to thank Bill Sharon and his staff at Wooster Hospital for an excellent overview of their progress and their model and their accolades that they've received. We should all be very proud and happy to have them in our community and have them doing the things that they do. We're all beneficiaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Myers?
Thank you, President Beitendijk. Last week, Dr. Nicole Labor was at the Presbyterian Church. I attended the event. It was standing room only. They were putting up chairs for about 30 minutes trying to get more people in. It was an excellent presentation on the neurobiology of the disease of addiction, and I think because of the turnout, they'll probably be having that presentation again. But I just want to say congratulations to them to a well-done event, and thank Bill Sharon and Scott Boys and his crew for the presentation earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Sanders?
Nothing to add, Mr. President.
All right. Mr. Silvestri?
Nothing to add, Mr. President, thank you.
Ms. Warden?
I have nothing, thank you.
And last word, Mr. Ansel.
It's very reassuring, and we should all be very proud to have the number 5 ranking in Polycom's micropolitan assessment. That's a marvelous accomplishment. And furthermore, the presentation from Bill Sharon and his staff today was also very enlightening and reassuring. And it should also be noted that we are in the top 20 best hospitals in our class. We're in the top 100 within Reuters, but there are 5 classifications that they grade each of the institutions, and we are a medium-sized community hospital, and in that category they picked the top 20, so we're top 20 in our category. So very proud of the accomplishments and the hard work and the track record of success that continue to be generated by the City of Worcester and the Worcester Community Hospital. That's all I have. Motion to adjourn.
If I may bootstrap on your comment, the category we are in is the largest category of all the categories. So not only are we in the top 20, we're in the top 20 of the largest category.
Good point.
Our rankings. So. And I saw you move to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Myers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.